still a Marxist. I took a summer job in the government, got intern in economics, and it was seeing the government from the inside that turned me around. The vision of the left, and I think many conservatives underestimate this, is really a more attractive vision in itself. The only reason for not believing in it is that it doesn't work. But you don't see that at the outset. If all you're looking at is just a theory, if the world were the way the left conceives it to be, it would be a better world than the way the right conceives it to be. It just happens that the world is not that way.
Empirical questions are questions that must be asked if we are truly interested in the well-being of others. Perhaps the most important distinction is between what sounds good and what works. On the one hand, what sounds good, on the other, what works. Why is that distinction so important?
I guess it was because rhetoric and visions play such a large part in higher education that the question of whether some vision is correct, what they believe is correct.
I did that after spending some time in Yosemite with a couple of photo buddies, and I realized that in those 4 days we hadn't watched a single news program, we hadn't seen a single newspaper. I said, this is the life. I don't need to be watching because most of the foolish things that are said on these programs were said 20 and 30 and 40 years ago and refuted 20 and 30 and 40 years ago.
By you, quite often, but you're happier when you're not reading the news.
Absolutely.
But at the same time, you're also happier when you're working on a book.
Yes, when I can go out there and get the hard data and find out what's really happening.
Again, intellectuals in society, there is a spontaneous demand from the larger society for the end products of engineering, medical, and scientific professions, but the demand for public intellectuals is largely manufactured by the public intellectuals themselves.
Yes.
Explain that. How do they manufacture demand for their own services?
Well, one thing is by making alarming predictions, offering solutions to our problems. And if they didn't do that, if Noam Chomsky had just kept on stating in linguistics, neither of us probably would have ever heard of Noam Chomsky. I think it's a classic example of the need for crusades. Now, many people are shocked by these emails. I'm not at all shocked by them. I read the original UN study years ago, and I was just curious as to how they were going to deal with the question that the temperatures went up first, and then there was the increase in carbon dioxide.
Right.
Because you can't say that A causes B if B happened first. And so I read this, and I could see they were tiptoeing through the tulips in the way they phrased things and so forth. They couldn't confront that. And now we're finding out that they knew darn well they couldn't deal with all the evidence.
A group of intellectuals, climate scientists who have a very narrow competency, suddenly proclaiming that there's a crisis, scaring the rest of us, thereby creating a demand for their services,
Yes.
not as climate scientists alone, but as a kind of high priestly caste that can tell us all how to live and save the entire
Yes.
planet, and in the meantime generate billions of dollars worth of government programs to fund their research initiatives. And so it's a racket.
Yes.
All right.
But again, you have to take account of the ability of human beings to rationalize. Sign the negotiated agreement, and they love negotiated agreements. It doesn't matter what it says. So long as you sign it and you win the Nobel Prize, who cares if a few million people get killed in the aftermath?
What's the transmission mechanism from intellectual opinion to the larger climate of opinion? This is where the media comes in.
Oh, there are many. Oh,
Right.
yeah, there are many
Yeah.
transmission belts. I mean, the schools, all from the elementary school right up through the graduate schools, the media, now increasingly the churches,
Right.
even churches that we think of as conservative, are out there pushing the liberal agenda.
Chess pieces fallacy. The chess pieces fallacy.
Yes.
Explain that one.
Well, Adam Smith had a very low opinion of abstract theorists who imagine that they can control a whole society with the ease with which one puts chess pieces where you want them on a chessboard. And so there's this notion of this inert mass of people down there, and then the wonderfully brilliant people at the top who ought to be telling them what to do. And there's no thought that, first of all, those at the top don't even know it, the people's individual conditions, who are very different from themselves.
Stupid people can create problems, but it often takes brilliant people to create a real catastrophe.
That is so, my gosh. Think of the catastrophes of the 20th century. You mentioned the genetic determinant. They drew the conclusion from their reasoning that you had to put an end to certain races, because they had what they called eugenics, but what was later called genocide. And so that idea originated with the progressives. And there was a progressive who wrote a book with that theme, which was translated into German, and Hitler called it his Bible. During the 1920s, in reaction to World War I, which was so bad, the idea arose among the intellectual elites that the way to prevent war was to stop arming. You see, so disarmament was the way to avoid a war. No evidence made the slightest impression on them, and they blundered the West into a war that probably would never have happened, because the totalitarian dictatorships that started that war were well aware that the United States, Britain, and France had an industrial capacity greater than theirs.
It's about the mindset of many of the people in academia and the media, among the media elite and in politics, and particularly those who think that various solutions should be imposed from the top down on the way people live their lives.
Why do you think they feel that way?
You'd have to ask them that. I think that they think they're just so much smarter than other people, that we're going to be so much better off if they tell us what to do, or if they lead us into doing things, such as recycling. I've seen a couple of studies indicating that recycling is at best useless. I've seen numbers that say that aluminum is something like 14% of the Earth's crust, yet we're recycling aluminum. Then the next thing is the solution. They have some plan which is going to make things better. Now, at this point, they'll say that if we put this solution in, we'll get beneficial result A. The critics say you'll get detrimental result Z. Stage 3, they put it in, and the result is detrimental result Z. And then what's fascinating to me is stage 4, the response, all sorts of ingenious ways of evading the fact that not only did what they promised not emerge, but the opposite of what they promised, what their critics claim would happen, has happened. And in the case of the war and poverty, they said, but imagine if we hadn't had these wonderful programs, how much worse it would have been. So this is a heads I win and tails you lose kind of argument. Sex education is a classic, because the argument there, we have to have sex education to combat teenage pregnancy and venereal disease. So I dug up the data on that. As of the time that these programs were instituted, teenage pregnancy had been going down for over a decade. Venereal disease, syphilis, for example, in 1960, was only 1/2 as prevalent as in 1950. So all of this is going down anyway.